All right, welcome back. Feels like it's been quite a while for me because I was just on vacation for 3 weeks going here. So I haven't really recorded anything since Big Ass Spider up until today. But it just so happens when I got back, I had a planned out sort of trajectory on where I'm going to be going. But then I saw that Bambi The Reckoning was available to rent on Prime. So that obviously took priority because what the hell. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, I sit down here after watching the movie. I don't really have a script or anything. I don't do jump cuts. I don't really do any edits except auditing the ad, see? And I'm not even going to cut that. It's just me talking, natural, raw, etc. If you're into that, awesome. If not, well, what can I tell you? Spoiler alert, you know the drill. I'm going to be talking about the film, things in the film, and the ending ultimately. So if you don't want spoilers, you can skip ahead to the little timestamp that says thoughts or rating or whatever it says, as long as it doesn't say spoilers in that as well, because sometimes I'm stupid and I say something in the non-spoiler part that has spoilers, so I will always try to warn you. I failed recently in one of my videos and gave away something, so I had to quickly edit that, but normally I'm pretty good. So anyway, that's out of the way. Let's get into the film. So what is Bambi the Reckoning? Well, let me tell you. So I believe this is in the same cinematic universe as those like Winnie the Pooh murder films, what was it? Blood and Honey, that's the one. And I think they're calling it the Pooniverse. Now, I could be wrong that maybe this isn't a part of that universe, but I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. If I'm wrong, well then, I don't know. Screw me, I guess. But anyway, let's get into the main little bit of the story here. We'll try to rush through the synopsis because, most people aren't here for the spoilers, so let's get that away. Anyway, we start the film with a little animated sequence of essentially Bambi, like the movie. Spoiler alert for Bambi from like 1940 whatever if you haven't seen it, but Bambi's a little deer and his mom dies and he grows up and finds a lover and all that stuff. So they show this animated thing, but then they extend on that and some industrial truck ends up hitting Bambi's lover, killing her, and polluting the environment with like toxic waste and stuff, and then Bambi drinks it and he mutates. So that's his origin story as to why he's like a hell deer for lack of a better term. I don't know. He's mutated though anyway. So we get a little intro scene with some hunters, and it's not exactly clear what's going on with them, but we find out that they're basically being sent by someone to clean up, take out Bambi and his gang of buddies, I guess. At one point in the film, we see like posters. There's like a badger and it says killed or something, and then like other different animals like captured or terminated or whatever. But Bambi's out there still, right? So I got to take care of that. Anyway, we get introduced to our main two protagonists, who are a mother and son pair by the name of Zana and Benji. They're in a cab type deal on the way to some cabin or in the woods somewhere. That's always a good sign, right? Cabin in the woods. That always ends well in these movies. Anyway, or maybe it's a house, but it's like in the middle of not in a city or anything. Surrounded by like woodland and stuff. Doesn't really matter at all. Anyway, it's out there in deer territory. So there you go. That's that. Anyway, right away, boom, we got monstrous Bambi ramming his little antlers. Well, not little, but ramming his antlers into the side of the cab. Flips the cab over. Or I don't know if it's a cab, but it's whatever. It's a transportation vehicle. I'm just going to call it a cab. It really, really doesn't matter at all what it is. Anyway, Bambi is then attacking this upside down cab while obviously mom and son are freaking out and the driver's freaking out, and he's like really big. Like not like kaiju size or anything like that, but he's like, I don't know. I'd say he's more like a moose than a deer. Sorry, I got like a hair in my eye or something. Whatever. I'll survive. Yeah, so he's like a moose-sized deer, but like all gnarly. He's got like sharp fang teeth, like, that was a great noise. He's got like little, what are they called? Those things that stick out of a spine of like an iguana. He kind of has those. Anyway, he's attacking this car that's upside down and like putting his big ass hooves on it, and you see the guy's arm break and his bones stick through his arm, and he's screaming, and finally he like just puts all his weight and it snaps the driver's neck, and the two run out and they end up outrunning this deer somehow. They end up going to find this cabin where there's this old woman, Mary, who turns out to be Benji's grandma, and she's kind of like off her rocker a little bit, I don't know, senile maybe? I don't know, or just traumatized, one of the two. Anyway, she's outside and she's like whispering to herself, Bambi, 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 which is kind of hilarious. That they literally said the name of it, but that's okay. Anyway, there's like a group of people there too. I think they're her friends. They're really just fodder, to be completely honest. So, yeah. There's this whole thing where Zana is telling Benji that his dad is going to meet them there later. And, you know, there's this whole thing with, I guess he's like an absent father or something. But we'll deal with that later. Anyway, there's some friends there. And finally, when she arrives, she tells them about this thing. And I guess they believe her or whatever, because one of the buddies is like, okay, I'm going to go to the car and make sure that the driver's okay. I guess they don't know that he's dead or whatever, but or go get help or something. I don't know. Anyway, he's wandering out into the woods or whatever, and this group of hunters hear like a twig snap, and one of them fires in that general direction, not knowing what it is, just assuming it's Bambi, I guess, or one of his woodland killer creature things that they're still looking for. And boom, kills Buddy. So Buddy's dead. One of the hunters, when he runs up to go see what he shot, he's like, for fuck's sakes. Anyway, so they bag him and tag him, I guess, and throw him in the back of their truck, and no evidence, right? You don't want evidence. Anyway, they find the wreck and everything too, and all that stuff, so they're kind of on. They find Xana's phone. And one of them makes some comment like, oh, she's pretty hot or something. And needless to say, yeah, she's very pretty, but I mean, appropriate, right? You gotta make these hunters likable, so we'll throw in one of those comments. Anyway. Yeah, so back at the cabin, Grandma there is like drawing pictures of Bambi with like charcoal and shit. And anyway, Bambi cuts the house and he like smashes through the door and breaks into the house, and there's this whole chase thing. And there is a good scene though before he actually attacks the house where you see like the motion sensor light outside lighting up and then turning off. And like you can catch a little bit of a glimpse of him occasionally, and sometimes there's nothing, and it's just like, okay, that was done pretty cool. Anyway, it breaks in, and three of the friends are in there, and this one, the only one I remember the name of because it's the one they said the name of multiple times, Harriet. She is the first to be toast, so she runs out, but gets gored in half by the antlers. So anyway, she dead. The other two friends, I assume, died too. I don't really remember how they died. Okay, so I'm going to say there's not a ton of gore in this either. Like, there's, you know, things like people getting their heads ripped off and stuff, but there's not like a ton of blood and like really memorable deaths. I mean, although what can you do with a deer other than use its antlers or like stomp, right? So anyway, doesn't matter. I assume the other two friends are dead. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. I just watched this literally, and that was like the least important thing. Like I said, these people are cannon fodder, essentially, at the beginning to show that Bambi kills people. So anyway, Harriet's in half. They get into the car, and okay, so one of them is in the car with them too. Sorry, my bad. Anyway, so they drive off, and Bambi's chasing them like full force. So there's one guy who is the uncle of Benji, Andrew, that's his name, and his annoying son, which I don't remember the name of. I'm sorry. So anyway, Andrew's driving and Bambi's chasing, and the annoying kid is like throwing shit out of the side of the thing to try to deter Bambi, but it's like just bouncing off his head. It's like a cup. Like, come on. It's like a moose-sized thing. If anyone knows anything about a moose, these things can like get hit by 18-wheelers and walk it off. So I mean, yeah, a cup's not going to do a lot. It's not a moose, granted, but it's moose size, and it's mutated, so obviously it's going to be pretty damn strong. Anyway, regardless. It eventually does kind of like smash up the vehicle a little bit, but they end up getting away. Only to find in the middle of the road a tree is down. So maybe Bambi did that, I'm assuming. He knocked a tree down and like trapped them. So they decide to tie it up Andrew goes outside and he's trying to set it up. And lo and behold, Bambi arrives, and they... Benji and Xana take off in the vehicle and leave the other two, sort of. They leave the annoying kid. I wish I remembered his name. Is it Harrison? It might be Harrison, actually. But I was going to call him the annoying kid in case I'm wrong. Anyway. The rope that they were going to tie to the tree and pull with the vehicle ends up getting wrapped around Andrew's leg, and he gets scraped across the pavement, so he's dead by the time they stop, and she sees his body. He's like, oh shit, that's not good. The hunters at this point too have arrived at the house, and they're like looking around, and they see Mary's paintings and stuff, and the top half of Harriet, who's still alive, which is lovely. So they dispatch her. I think they like cut her throat or put a knife in her throat or something. Anyway, ease her suffering, although she's probably in shock, so who knows if she can even feel pain. But she's gonna die anyway. Why make her suffer, right? So you know what? Good on you, hunters. I think they're more like a task force than hunters, but they just look like hunters, so that's what I'm gonna call them. Anyway, Andrew's dragged, etc. The annoying kid is left. He sees Bambi, and he is hiding behind a tree, and he's slowly backing away, trying to not make noise and whatever. And of course, he ends up stepping on a stick, and Bambi's like, "What?" So there's a confrontation. Bambi's pretty much like about to like bite his face off, and then there's like a deer noise or some kind of noise in the woods that like calls Bambi off. So the kid survives, sort of. Then we get a shot of a bear trap, and you're like, oh boy, how's this gonna come into play? We see the annoying kid just like in shock that he survived the encounter, and then he sees a little bunny, and he's like, okay. And the bunny like hops towards him, and it's all cute, and he just hoofs it, and it goes flying off into the woods. And then a bunch of other bunnies show up, and then the kid's like, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. No, one of them like goes rah at him, so obviously they're infected too. And they attack him, and he trips backwards, and his head falls into the bear trap. So the bear trap clamps on his head as the bunnies rip him apart, and he's still alive. So annoying kid's dead. Good times. So now we're basically left with this group of hunters and our two heroes. Anyway, our two heroes end up running into these hunters, and they say, okay, we're going to take you back to our camp. We got a satellite phone. We can call for help, blah, 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 blah. They have no intention of doing that. Like I said, they're there to clean up. So essentially, I guess they were hired by the company that spilled all that chemicals and whatnot and mutated all these animals. Wow. Animals. And yeah, it turns out that Simon, who is Benji's father, is a part of this group. And Benji's like, Dad? And he's like, Simon? Fucking Benji. Oh my god. Kill me. So there's that. There's a nice little encounter, and son hugs dad, and then like moments later, there's a scene of Xana and Simon fighting in another room, and Simon's like, yeah, I literally didn't want you guys out here, etc. I told you this, you know, and he's just being kind of a shitty dad. He's like an absentee father who doesn't care about his kid and all that stuff. So we're building him up as that kind of guy. So anyway, back at the, I forgot to mention, there's a scene where Mary ends up wandering off too. Right? Does that happen before or after this? I don't remember. Whatever. Anyway, she wanders off, and there's like a whole, I guess you find, oh no, that's near the end. Oh my god, I'm fucking. So Mary ends up wandering off during this argument, and Xana runs out and starts calling for Mary. Now, I don't know, I assume Mary is Simon's mother, but Simon doesn't seem very concerned at all about that, so that's cool. But the daughter-in-law sure does, so that's important. Goes wandering off into the woods, and Benji's also wandered off, and this whole thing, it accumulates into a big scene in the woods where Bambi comes, obviously. And Benji like lights a flare at one point, and you see like all these bones, and it's basically Bambi's nest or whatever it is. Like there's like half-eaten bodies and dead people and all that crap. Then there's a scene where a hunter goes and takes a pee and is promptly beheaded, so that's fun. And his buddy goes and looks for him, and he's like destroyed. So these hunters aren't super efficient, I'll be honest. But it turns out one of them sort of survives his being mauled because Bambi does show up. Turns out that these hunters also have this baby deer in a cage that I guess they're gonna use to lure Bambi, because it turns out it's like his offspring, and this little deer, and they're kicking the cages, and that's essentially when Benji runs off and he's like, I'm gonna go free this deer. So as soon as those two guys are taken out, the cage is left unguarded. Benji runs out and friggin' unlocks the cage and takes the deer and runs off, and obviously there's security cameras on it, so one of the hunter ladies sees it, or dudes, I can't even remember, and then there's a pursuit, and he has a gun drawn on him and everything, and there's this whole dramatic moment. And finally, Simon grows a little bit of balls. He's like, dude, no. And the guy's like, give me the deer. And Simon's just to his kid, like, just give him the deer, dude. Like, seriously. Slight moment of good dad happening until Bambi shows up and just starts killing again. And Simon's like, yeah, I'm the fuck out of here. Leaves his kid and ex-wife and all his buddies that are left over, and drives off. And then there's a lovely little scene where Bambi is reunited with his little foal, or whatever. They're called foals, right? Baby deer, I think. Is it a foal? I think it's a foal. His baby deer, and it's all happy, and they're like, it's kind of cute a little bit, and I guess he kind of forgives, or it doesn't want to kill Zana and Benji for the reason that they gave him his kid back, or something like that. Anyway, dickhead hunter that you thought was dead ends up coming out with a revolver and shooting Bambi multiple times, and he falls down, and I think he gets shot in the head too by, Mary comes out and ends up shooting the guy with the revolver with a rifle, so boom, his head's gone. And she's normal suddenly, like is able to like talk properly and everything, so it's like, okay, I don't know how that exactly happened, but she's good now. I guess maybe seeing Bambi on the verge of death calmed her down or something, I don't know. So there we go, we get a little nice scene of the baby, and paralleling the intro to the original Bambi story. So Bambi befell the fate of his mom, and his kid is befalling the fate of him, or whatever. Anyway, then we cut to a scene of Simon in this car, and there's something in the back moving around, and he stops, and he parks the car or whatever, and turns, and anyway, bunnies get him, so the bunny like rips his throat out, so Simon's dead, so good for him. And then they cut back to the scene of the baby deer like nuzzling Bambi as Bambi's taking his last breath, and the little deer cries out, and it's all sad and stuff, and then the credits roll. So that's Bambi the Reckoning. So what did I think? Well, I was both expecting it to be either way worse or way better than it was. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The design of Bambi is pretty damn cool. I don't know if they had a higher budget than like the Winnie the Pooh movies or whatever, but it looks cool. When I saw the trailer for it, I was like, okay, I genuinely want to see this movie. It looks good. Whereas when I saw the Winnie the Pooh trailer, I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. I have to see it just to see what it is. But this one looked more along the lines of, okay, cool, mutated evil deer thing. Let's give her. And, I mean, it essentially delivered for the most part. Like I said, the kills, there's not much you can do with a deer, granted. But the amount of gore in the kills was very minimal. So if that matters to you, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it wasn't minimal. Like, there was still blood and stuff, but there wasn't like... It could have been way more gratuitous than it was. And I was expecting it to be more gratuitous than it was, but that's fine. I don't even know what the rating this movie got is, but I could see it being like PG-13 or something. That said, I like the little animated intro part. That was pretty solid. Again, we're trying to step into non-spoiler territory here, right? So I'm not going to try to give away anything, but that was well done. I liked that. It set the mood for the story. Like I said, the design of Bambi was good. Genuinely looked creepy. I think like I said, I think they had a higher budget because it looked better. But the story was kind of basic. Like, without giving away the plot or the things that happen in the movie, it was just kind of like taking place over like a single night. One of those kind of movies, which is fine. And again, I didn't dislike it. I actually did enjoy it for the most part. What can I say about the acting? It was fine, I guess. The cinematography was pretty good. They did a very good job of like giving you the creepy woods vibe, and you know, the sounds of the thing before you see the thing. Couple of jump scares, nothing too crazy, but you know, a couple that are like, oh, cool, okay, that was fun. Got the, you know, I don't know, man. I kind of liked it. I'll be honest, I kind of liked it. But how much did I like it? What am I going to rate it? I don't think it's a 6. I think I'm going to give it a 5.8. I think that's reasonable. Because it did exceed my expectations, but it also fell short of my expectations. So it's kind of a weird place to put it in. You either think it's going to be a disaster or really fun. And it ended up just being kind of fun. So 5.8 seems decent, I guess, for what this was. Should you see this movie? It's only available to rent, so that was a little bit annoying. And it's only on Prime, so there's not really any other way, legal anyway, to stream this film. So I paid whatever I paid for it. I don't regret it. I mean, I don't think I would have even regretted it if I paid like theater prices for it, because it was fun enough. So should you see it? Yeah, go for it if you feel like renting it. I'm sure eventually it'll come onto like some streaming service and be free. Like, it'll probably end up on Shudder at some point. Maybe, I don't know. So if you're really dying to see it, I mean, you spend the $5 or $6 or whatever it costs, and it's entertaining. I don't know really what more to say about it than that, other than yeah, both exceeded and fell short of my expectations at the same time. But I still enjoyed it. So there you go. So what else do you think we will see from this Pooniverse? I hate saying that word. It's ridiculous. I don't know. I think they have like a... Are they doing Pinocchio or something too coming up? Or I don't remember what their line of movies has. Or maybe it's like Peter Pan or something. I can't remember. But we'll see what happens. And maybe there'll be like a big Avengers Assemble with like Bambi and Winnie the Pooh and friggin' Peter Pan and Pinocchio and I don't know what else. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, we'll leave it here. That was Bambi the Reckoning. Check it out. Like I said, it's on Prime and it can be rented. It's not free anywhere that I know of. So there you go. We'll leave it there. Adios.